Hey, Northstate, checking in from somewhere a little bit different than earlier when I was in the weather center. Got done with my shift and decided I had to go get out and soak up some of this snow. So I'm taking you to the trails above Whiskeytown National Recreation Area, just like last week, and I flip the camera, take you along with me as we hike through what is still an impressive amount of snow. Let's turn things around and let's get into it. Now, we're seeing rain out here above Whiskeytown at an elevation of about 1,500 feet here, maybe slightly higher than that as we speak. And you're seeing that rain come off the trees down onto the trail and make for a bit of a slushier mess. But there are a lot of areas here where I'm climbing and I'm still seeing about 5 or 6 inches of snow. I'll step in and my foot doesn't even hit the ground. And you look out towards the lake out that way, there's some minor hills in the way. Look at that. Look at that tree fully suspended in the arm of another. That is incredible. Never seen that before. That may be a new feature since last week. But we're trekking our way up the hill here again. A good 5 or 6 inches of snow at about 1,500 feet of elevation, but it is raining on that snow, and that's making things a little bit slicker, and we're slowly seeing it condense into a bit more of an ice. If you make a snowball, super easy to make that snowball, but boy, is it heavy. You wouldn't want to throw that at anybody that you like. Maybe at an enemy, because that stuff is thick and icy, just full of water, not super fluffy. And that's where we're at now, as that rain falls on top of the snow. Temperatures here around the lake and in these foothills around Whiskeytown are currently sitting somewhere in the ballpark of about 34 to 36 degrees. So it is too warm to support continued accumulation. And of course, even though you could see snowflakes at a temperature like 34, 35, that's not what's happening here. So we're getting all rain on top of that snow, but it's still beautiful. And there still is a pretty good snowpack down here. You see, I step in and I don't sink all the way to the ground, at least in some spots where we got that incredible snow overnight. Now, I'll try and catch my breath for a second and just take you along as we go up the hill here. But if you have any questions about the weather or what we're seeing here, let me know. Throw them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer as we go along. But I thought maybe a beautiful view to make up for the relative disappointment of the snow in the valley floor. We saw a lot of spots get a dusting that only lasted a couple hours and may have been gone by the time you woke up. Well, this is hopefully a slight consolation prize as we navigate the beautiful, still snowy terrain here just above the visitor center at Whiskeytown. And appreciate everybody hopping on. Hope you're staying warm. I know we've seen lots of power outages, some spin outs, all of that at play today, and it's a mess out there. So glad to see that some of those chain restrictions have come down. Where are you now? I'm just up above the Whiskeytown Visitor Center, following one of the trails there. If you park and you look towards the lake, turn around, and this will take you up a trail that winds its way up. Kind of looks like an access road. I don't know how often folks are accessing this part of the park on a vehicle, but good place to hike on a day that's sunny and not too bad on a snowy day either. Beautiful, but it is a steep incline. Did this last Thursday when we had some snow out here, and again, I think the snow depth has improved compared to this time last week where we saw maybe 2 to 3 inches. I think we're closer to 4 to 5 here today. I am really sinking in. You can see some of my footsteps there, just deep down in some of these spots where that snow really got to dumping and hasn't been rained on too much yet. But again, it is actively raining, so that's the situation here. Even at 1,500 feet, that snow level has really slunk up. I don't know if that's a correct term, but whereas this is at Whiskeytown National Recreation Area, following one of the trails kind of on the east side of the park, just behind the visitor center. And it's beautiful up here, and it is still very snowy. And it looks like from the trails I'm seeing, I'm the only person crazy enough to go out here. The only ones joining me with their footprints are some animals. So it's a fun adventure. I love to get out in the snow, and I'd love to take you along with me as we do it. A lot of Shasta County didn't get the memo to join on the snow. I'm bummed. Yeah, we did have a pretty narrow band of, enough snow that it was fun. Even folks in downtown Reading saw a couple flurries, and that was it. So As it stands right now, not looking great for a lot of lowland folks to see any snow this time around in 2025, but you can still chase the fun, go up to the mountains. The ski park is going to be doing absolutely amazing with this kind of snow because we're seeing those snow levels rise throughout the day today. So even places like Bernie and Trinity Center and Weaverville, those spots that saw lots of snow overnight and into this morning, they're not necessarily going to see that snow last particularly long. They're going to end up in a situation just like this, where you've got rain on top of that snow, makes it extra heavy, and that's going to make for some issues with continued power outages. We're going to see down branches, things like that, because this snow is just going to continue to get weighed down as that rain pours on top of it. Now, the snow levels are really supposed to only rise to about 4,500 feet. And so that's kind of on the high end. I think in Siskiyou County, you'll generally stay below that. But even if you say 4,500 feet, well, the ski park, 5,400 feet in elevation. So you're in good shape there. We talk about our highest peaks, Lassen National Park. The whole park is basically above about 6,000, 7,000 feet in elevation. So they're going to be doing gangbusters up there. And we're really going to see some great snow over the peaks. This is some really thick snow that I'm stepping into here. If you just notice, well, maybe some spots, some not, but it is an impressive amount of snow that's still hanging on through this rain here at Whiskeytown National Recreation Area. If you're just hopping on, going out for a little hike, soaking it in. Temperatures are in the mid 30s, so it is rain, and it is starting to get squished down, right? That rain on top of the snow condensing it, so this may have been even fluffier a little earlier this morning when our crew was out here on daybreak, but for me now, still enough to sink into. And boy, what a heck of a view. Apologize if my speaking is a little breathy. It is a heck of a trek out here. We're going up about 700 feet in elevation in the process. So that's what we're navigating. And again, if you got any questions, throw them in the chat if you're curious about anything going on here or in your area. I've been all finger on the pulse all morning. And this is my idea of fun. You might think I'm crazy, and I think I'm a little crazy, but I do think it is pretty fun. So we're just trekking our way through the snow, give you a nice visual. If you're sitting at home watching only rain out the window, maybe, just maybe, this is a slight consolation. And you might hear that rain on my jacket or on the camera itself. It's a little wet out here, and that's making things slippery, and that's something to keep in mind if you're in the higher elevations and you got some good snow. Maybe you are running into that same problem where it's starting to turn into slush gradually, and that slush can be a whole lot worse when you've got a lot of it rather than just a little bit, because it takes a while to condense it down, right? So here, 5-6 inches that you put water on top of, it's like a slip and slide. Downtown Reading, maybe a quarter of an inch. Pretty quickly, that slush is going to wear down to just the usual road traction. So keep that in mind for folks Trinity County, eastern Shasta County, where you saw some good snow. We're trekking our way up, and boy, this feels almost vertical when you talk about snow. It is, well, you know, almost all of my fingers deep. It's pretty impressive. So that's what we're dealing with. Very packable snow. You can basically put your fingerprint into it. And I apologize if that ended for a second there. And it is good packing snow. I might build a snowman again. If you saw on my Facebook last week while I was out here, did the same thing. Had a little less snow. Had a little bit more energy at that point in the day. But we built a snowman, and he looked absolutely terrifying. We'll see what I can do this time as we make our way up towards the power lines near the top of this trail where it kind of ends. But glad to have you along with me as we make our way up. Again, it's raining out here. You look down towards the valley, a little foggy, a little cloudy, right? You're dealing with that pretty light precipitation right now, but there is a pretty good chance for some thunderstorms into the afternoon in places like Reading. Maybe you don't see a thunderstorm, but you are likely to see at least a little bit heavier rain than we've dealt with here in these morning hours after that snow. For the sake of your own listening, I'm going to shut down the talking while I make my way up this steepest stretch right here, but I'll watch the comments, see if anything comes in, and try and reestablish a little bit of breath as we go. And I would say, as I make my way up here, wouldn't recommend this unless you're being really cautious and careful. It is a lot of snow. It can be pretty hard on your lungs and your heart if you're not used to it. So definitely don't do your normal routine out in the snow. We see often a lot of cardiac events and people going out and shoveling their driveways. This is Mount Shasta. No, Mary, this is up at Whiskeytown, in the foothills around Whiskeytown National Recreation Area. And in fact, Shasta Bali is off that direction, and we're just making our way around some of the foothills. This isn't even one of the higher elevations out here. This is really just about 1,500 to 1,700 feet in elevation that we're talking about right now. And I'm making my way around a down tree. There are going to be hazards like this all across the North State after a storm like this. So do be careful flying around blind corners, that sort of thing. And yeah, with such a low cloud layer and the mist and the fog, hard to really get your bearings as to where we are. But I would say that looking just about straight that way is where you would see Shasta Bali and of course Whiskeytown Lake, somewhere down there through the fog, through it all. And we are looking at just continued hills wrapping around. And to give you some bearings again, that way is towards Redding, Old Shasta, just off that direction. And my direction is straight up this hill. So we're just trekking along. Appreciate y'all taking a little time to get a little snow visual on your Thursday. Again, might keep my talking to a minimum as I make my way up this slushy slope. And yeah, we're going to continue to see rain out here in these elevations. So if you are trying to make the most of the snow, get out and do it if you can. Maybe on your lunch break, go catch a little snow now. It's going to turn over to rain for those areas below about 4,000 feet. So keep that in mind. Now, Mount Shasta City, Chester are probably the two cities that I expect to keep snow going throughout the day. And that means they're going to pile those snow numbers up to a pretty impressive extent. But other spots like Bernie, Weaverville, Hayfork, you name it, certainly Shingletown, that snow is not long for this world. And you can probably hear that slush just crunching under my feet. It is definitely getting a little messy. You can see the snow's kind of pockmarked here by all the rain falling off the branches in very continued locations. And so that's one of the slight hazards, is everything's a little slicker than last week when we weren't piling all this rain on, but that's how it's going. You're seeing some animal tracks here on the ground. And like I said earlier, only me and the animals are crazy enough to be out here. So wouldn't recommend it, but glad to have you with me as I have dragged myself into this. We'll keep going just a little further. Basically, the trail tops out up there at that transmitter line. So we'll continue to make our way up this final slope, and that should give you a pretty good look over what should be the lake. You're not probably going to see it through all this cloud cover, but we're making our way. And hopefully this isn't too wobbly. I have a video. And again, I apologize if I'm breathing too heavy into the mic, but we're making our way to a pretty cool vista overlooking the lake on a normal sunny day. But that is not the case. It's a very steady rain right now. Just took my hood off to try and cool off a little bit. And I feel that rain pelting me. So again, even snow here at these higher elevations that's out in oodles is not going to stick around too much longer. You can see this grade is pretty steep, especially when you're trudging through the snow. But boy, the payoff is wonderful. And as a snow fan, no place I'd rather be other than maybe my bed at this point in the night. Thank you, Preston. It's amazing. This is Whiskeytown. Yeah, Mary, thank you for hopping on. It is incredible to see how much of that cold air can just collect around the lake and doesn't necessarily seep down into the valley floor that well. Even Old Shasta, just a trace. But boy, that cold air comes in out of Trinity County and powers into the basin and the foothills around Whiskeytown Lake, and you get a wonderland like this. So, as I try not to fall on this final ascent, I'll give you a look downhill and down to where those transmitter lines go, right? So, you can follow the cables way downhill And that doesn't even get you down towards the lake. The lake's a little further down, so we're way up. Just to give you that reference, probably about 1,800 feet in elevation. So still lots of snow that fell here when we started those snow levels around 1,000 feet or even 500 feet this morning. But we are way, way past that point now. And it is a steady, ready rain for us at Whiskeytown. So there's that view looking down towards the lake, which you should see on any other day. I'll flip the camera to sign off real quick and show you one last view. Howdy. It's very wet up here. I hope you can stay safe and dry on what is another wild weather Thursday in the North State. I don't think this will be a weekly tradition. In fact, this time next week, we may be talking mid-60s in spots like Redding and even getting towards 60 here at Whiskeytown. So from snow to 60s, that's the way it goes. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Stay warm, stay dry, and I'll see you on Daybreak again tomorrow one last time for some calmer Valentine's Day weather.